Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 27th, 2022 remote Zoom meeting of the Gloucester Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the Zoning Board of Appeals during this and future remote meetings will be by roll call vote. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or device, there is a raise hand button that you can tap and press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. My name is Joe Parisi. I'm the chairman, and I recognize in attendance Vice Chair Catherine Schlichty, Board Member Michael Nyman, Board Member Peter Canavo, and Board Member Adria Pratt. And I declare we have a quorum present. For the record, this is Zoom meeting ID 854-6250-5390. Now, this board hasn't met by Zoom in 4.5 months, but so just kind of remind everybody where we're at. Everything we have to do by roll call. For the audience, when you raise your hand, they sort on my screen in the order that you raise your hand. So that's the order that I call people on to speak. We need you to first give your name and address for the record and pause for a second to make sure we get it clearly. And then you can begin giving your testimony, whether you're for or against anything. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 11th, 2022. Are there any corrections or omissions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make that motion to approve the minutes of January 13th.
A second.
Yeah, it says 11 on my sheet, but yeah, it was the 13th. Motion
Yeah.
made and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted. A roll call vote.
Ms. Schlichty,
Yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Our first order of business tonight is a continued hearing. The petition of the Cape Ann Marina Dominic Realty Trust seeking a special permit under 2.3.4 subsection A, 8, to allow outdoor seating area year-round at 75 Essex Avenue. Peter, I believe you're going to recuse from this.
Yes, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay, so Peter is recusing, and we will continue the hearing that we had. We did receive for the record a new plan of the lot showing the proposed changes to parking.
Mr.
and the-
Chairman, may I
Yes.
interrupt for 1 second, please? I just want to note for the record that James Gelati is signed on, please.
He is on. Now. Okay,
Yes.
so we will have 5 members who all participated in the previous hearing, participating in this one for the Cape Ann Marina. And you all received the packet. It's in the public record of the revised layout in the lot. And I'll entertain the applicant to make the presentation. We could bring, I'm not seeing the,
Good evening, everyone. This is Tobin Dominic. I'm not sure you can see me or not.
we can now. Yep.
Okay, so is it possible that we can bring Patrick Hurd in as well? I don't know Allison, is that you? I'm not sure to ask.
The chair is okay with it, yes.
Yeah, his hand is up. Do you want to bring him in as a participant, a panelist? Or can you do that?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. So Tobin Dominic, Cape Ann Marina, 75 Essex Avenue. Patrick Hurd is also on. He's our general manager. He also made the presentation with us the last time. Deb Ellison is also our counsel, and she is listening in, but she's not involved in the presentation. But I just wanted to let everybody know that she's aware, and she's on for another client as well, but available for legal questions. So is it possible to share my screen? Should I just do that? Or do I have to? Okay.
Yeah, you can hit share screen.
Yeah. Okay, can everybody see that?
Now
Yeah.
we can, yeah, takes a second.
Okay,
It's good now.
all right. So just as a reminder, we're here for seeking a permit for outdoor seating at 75 Essex Avenue. There's existing outdoor seating that's been here for many years on the property. And in addition, we're asking for a new area called the courtyard area and the new deck, which we went into detail last presentation. So if anybody has questions about those details, I'm happy to pull that back up. Also, we learned from the last hearing that the fire department will work with us in moving an existing fire lane from the courtyard area to a new proposed area, which you'll see on the plan, which we'll get to in a minute, that's been submitted to you. It also includes a study and the variances with the turning radiuses of their equipment, and it's stamped by Gateway Consultants. We met with Bill Sanborn this week, and he has told us that we will continue with planning and site plan review in regards to the fire lane matter after the decision of this board. And we also wanted to mention that the removal or relocation of the fire lane is currently in the courtyard area, so in which we're asking for outdoor seating. So just again, as a reminder. And as we left it for the last meeting we had, it was asked that we prepare a parking plan. So that's what we've done. And the new plan is submitted for your review. And I'm just going to get to that slide so we can see it. I don't know if I can see the detail. Okay. So the parking plan, the new plan submitted for your review addresses the requests that we had from the last meeting. And that was to show the existing parking spaces that we have on the plan, and then also some new proposed parking that would accommodate for the new outdoor seating. So I've taken, I know it's a big plan, it's hard to see, but I've highlighted in yellow with a different color so that the highlight of the yellow is the new proposed, which is 111 spaces. All the hash marks that you see are what was existing. So again, the new outdoor seating proposed in the courtyard and deck area totals approximately 184 seats, which equates to 61 additional spaces. On the plan, you'll see that 111 spaces has been added, and this will satisfy the request. So I'm going to have Patrick talk about how we manage parking, just so again, everybody's aware of what we currently do.
Can I just, Mr. Chair, can I just ask, just to get my,
Yes.
so did you just say you're, with the courtyard and the deck, how many new seats would you be adding?
That's 184 together.
The courtyard and the deck?
Yes, so the
Ah.
deck, we're estimating at 84 seats and the courtyard is estimated at 100 seats.
Okay. And then in addition to that, with which are other areas that you're looking to have permitted are the, existing deck and bar and the tent area, right?
Yes, for outdoor seating permit, correct.
And how many of those? How many seats between the existing deck and
The existing deck has an occupancy at 245, although we're not operating at 245 seats.
Mhm.
And the tent area doesn't necessarily have a seat allocation because it can be small or large, but on an average party, say 130 for a wedding.
Okay. Okay, and then how many seats are in the restaurant itself, in the building?
there's 99 seats inside dining.
Okay,
Again,
right, thank you.
that's not fully occupied at 99 for the most part, but that's what the occupancy plans say it
Yeah.
says.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So Patrick, can you explain the management of the parking? please?
Yes, Patrick Hurd, 75 Essex Avenue, General Manager, Cape Ann Marina. Good evening, everyone. During the height of the busy times, which you normally run between June and Labor Day, usually weekends, we have managed parking attendance anywhere between 2 to 5 people to facilitate parking uses that we require on the site. As cars arrive, we question each individual that come in to the property. The attendants then direct them where to park depending on why they're coming and what they'll be doing. The attendants also permit other cars wanting to park on site during non-marina uses, such as Gloucester-wide events, the Horrible Parade, fireworks, Waterfront Festival, Boat Parade. Attendants also monitor if any of our guests are parking on Essex Avenue. We don't really necessarily monitor whether they're going in Mexico. We just make sure that they aren't. And we really have not had much of a problem with that in the past at all. The management is myself, the general manager, or the manager on duty who monitors this all throughout the weekends, taking time and making sure they're clear, weather dependent, of course. Any planned events are usually taken into consideration if needed, requests to bus people in from different areas if we know that we can't handle the parking ourselves. And we also offer short trips in golf carts. Basically, our golf carts are doing figure eights throughout the property during the day, bringing people from the far sides of the property to have. To date, we've really never had any major issues with parking that we're aware of. We really haven't had any complaints from the city itself. Rather, we've had quite a few compliments about how we've handled our parking.
Great.
Okay.
So, any questions?
I have one more question. So
Go
the
ahead.
there's two separate lots that are shown here. Is the same entity own both lots?
Yes, great question. Both, yeah, same. Dominic Realty Trust owns both.
Okay, thank you.
And Catherine, I doing some quick math, so all the capacities that she gave and what we know the hotel requires actually does come out to the 251 spaces that they're providing.
Right,
Just made, I just did them all, added them all up.
I did too, Joe.
3 per room.
I got to 249, but yeah.
Yeah, I got the 252, but I'll give them the one space. So, all righty. All right, is that it? Tobin, all set?
Yes, if there's any more questions.
No, I think we'll continue the public hearing with testimony one
Great.
time through. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand now. And again, I remind you, if you're on a phone device, you dial *9. If you're on a computer, you hit the raise hand button, and I will be able to see all of you out there and if anyone's raising a hand. For anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand.
Tobin, could you take the plans down so that we can see?
Oh, yeah, there you
Thank you.
go. Anyone in favor? I seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Discussion by the board or motion?
Yeah, just a quick comment from me. I just thought it was a good process. I thought it was very helpful to lay it all out and to actually show us that you were actually giving the parking that was necessary for what's there and what you're proposing. So anyway, I just thought it was a very good process. I know it took a couple of weeks, but I'm sure it cost some time and money for you, but I think it was a good process.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to agree with Michael. I was concerned about the parking, not when Dominic Realty Trust runs the property, but if somebody in the future runs the property, I know you do a good job of running the property. There's no guarantee that someone in the future is going to do a good job of running the property. And so I had been all along concerned about the parking and whether you met the parking, but as Joe pointed out, when we do the numbers on the parking, you meet the requirements. It's three, it's a parking spot for every 3 diners, plus you have 1 for every person in the hotel, plus you have, and now we haven't talked about the slips you have, but there is no parking requirement for boat slips, surprisingly enough, in our ordinance. So we can't lay that on you. My only thought is that it's 2 separate parcels, but they're both owned by Dominic Realty, and this is going to be, a condition that the 2 parcels remain together, that you don't separate them into separate ownership or separate use, because it doesn't work unless you have both of those parcels together and the 251 parking spots. So I know it was probably painful to wait 2 weeks, but for me, it made all the difference in whether I can support this application or not. So
Okay, any other board members wish to questions or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion. On the petition of Cape Ann Marina, Dominic Realty Trust seeking special permit 2.3.4 subsection 8 to allow outdoor seating area year-round at 75 Essex Avenue, as has been presented on the plans. I would move approval of that special permit on the condition that those 2 lots remain in common ownership.
We have a motion on the floor,
Second.
made
You're
and
muted,
seconded.
Michael. You're muted, Michael.
We'll have a roll call vote on the special permit.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Ms. Slickty,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. I agree they met the criteria for the special permit. It won't be more detrimental to the neighborhood. And you've heard our decisions favorable. I understand Attorney Ellison will be creating a draft for us. That would be much appreciated and speed up the process.
Mr. Chairman, I will stamp and date those plans for you with your
I
permission.
appreciate that. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank-
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Moving on to our first new hearing of the night is the petition of Jonathan Bell seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand a non-conforming structure to allow construction of an accessory structure at 20 Nautilus Road. I believe the presenter is Tim Curtis, the architect. Do we have him as a panelist?
Yeah, it's just taking a few minutes.
Okay,
No, it didn't work. Let me try it again.
Hello, can you all hear me?
yes, we can.
My name is Tim Curtis. I am an architect with Carpenter and McNeil at 106 Western Avenue in Essex, and I'm here representing Jonathan Bell. I'm going to share my screen as well. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We are here seeking a special permit to expand an existing non-conforming accessory structure over at 20 Nautilus. This is the engineering site plan, but I'm just going to show the architectural site plan because it's a little bit easier to read. is here. So just to give a brief background on the site, there is an original stone carriage house, which was built in the early 1900s, which was used as a 4-bay carriage house. Eventually, that was converted into living space. And then the octagon out back was constructed in the early 90s. We're proposing some additional work on the house, a few modest additions that are conforming to the current bylaws. And there's an existing shed, roughly 8 by 10, off, pretty much sitting on the property line. So we are planning to rotate and expand the shed because the lot is covered with ledge. So the house does not have any basements or crawl space for any type of storage. So the owner would like to have a little bit bigger shed just for kind of general storage, a workshop, and then wood storage for a new wood burning outdoor fireplace. So because of the shed's location with the view out towards Good Harbor Beach, the client wanted a structure that would blend in with the architecture of the house. So it's a nice shingle style. The second page. So here's sort of some proposed renderings that show sort of the shingle style of the shed with the view out towards the water. Then you can kind of just see the house in the background here. And then down here are pictures of the existing shed, which was built in, I believe, the early 70s. So it's just about 50 years old, and kind of served its purpose.
What's the footprint of the new shed?
The new shed is right around 12 by 18, and the existing was 8 by 10.
Thank you.
And as far as the location of the shed, there is a coastal bank on the property. So most of the existing house is within the 100-foot buffer zone. We've already gone through the Concom process and have approval on that. But it's also a corner lot. So kind of the existing location is kind of almost where the new shed has to go as well. So we don't have many options to kind of move it around the site. And because it's situated at the bottom of a hill, it's pretty much invisible from any public way or even the abutters uphill.
Okay.
So it was pretty much my presentation. Tried to keep it nice and short for everyone.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions at this moment of the architect? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone, if you could take down your screen, that'd be appreciated.
Sure.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Again, *9 on the phone or the raise your hand button on Zoom or on a computer. I see none. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application at 20 Nautilus Road? Anyone in opposition? Please raise your hand. Again, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. There's no need for rebuttal. Discussion by the board or a motion?
This is just a simple alter and expand, right?
Yeah, 1.9.
Yep. I can do this.
Go to it.
Position of Jonathan Bell seeking special permit 1.9 alter, expand a non-conforming structure to allow construction of accessory structure at 20 Nautilus Road. It is increasing the non-conformity. It is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. In fact, it's tastefully done to blend in with the house. So I would move approval of the special permit.
Motion made and seconded by Peter. Roll call vote.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Slickty,
Yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes, yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes for the reasons stated by the motioner. You've heard our decision is favorable. We will put together a written decision and get that out as soon as possible.
I will sign and stamp those plans for you, your permission, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please do that.
Also need a member to write this one, please.
All right.
Thank you, Catherine.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck, Tim. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Yep, good to see you, Michael.
Our next hearing is the petition of Joseph Callahan, seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand the non-conforming structure to allow modifications to an existing garage, add dormer and modify height at 49 Wingashiek Road. I believe Attorney Sheedy is representing.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Are we going out of order? I only ask because the agenda I have.
I'm
says-
sorry. I turned to another page. Yes. We will stick to the agenda, which was at the very top. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Adrian.
Could you catch that for me? The petition of William and Pamela Norman seeking a variance under 5.24.3, Section A, to allow a detached ADU and garage on non-owner occupied two-family principal dwelling at 39 to 41 Witham Street. And everyone's hearing this. The applicant, William Norman, you bring him in, please.
Doesn't want to work tonight.
You need his hand up to pull him in, or?
I
He had it
did.
raised.
His hand was up and I pulled him in. I think it's just really slow.
Okay.
Unless we lost him.
He's muted.
Oh, you see him? Oh, good.
There we go. It's coming.
Norman? Yep.
Can I see him?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
can.
Okay, fine, thank you. Again, my name is William Normand. We're speaking on a petition that was submitted for 3941 Witham Street that my wife and I own. We've owned the property for approximately 5 years now. Upon purchase of the property, we evicted all tenants, including a tenant that lived above the garage that is in question. At that time, we submitted a letter to the building department stating that we would disassemble the kitchen and stove until the proper time came to bring it in front of the board, which seems to be tonight. I've submitted a fairly lengthy narrative along with my application. I'm sure that you've all read, and I'd like to just touch on some highlighted areas. The property characteristics, the property, the land itself contains 2 lots, lot 32 of 3,200 square feet and lot 33 of 25,000 square feet. We've been working sequentially over the past 5 years to eliminate many complaints that were lodged against the property through the building department and the Board of Health. We have completed the list of violations with the exception of trying to legalize the apartment above the garage. The characteristics of the garage and the apartment are as such. Historically, the garage and apartment above it has contained its own address as 39 Witham Street. It does possess its own electrical service, its own septic system, and has been rented since inception in 1979. The building envelope itself meets all primary use dimensions and not accessories dimensions. We're basically just looking to continue the use of the apartment above the garage, anticipating that the garage, more than likely will be rented by a family member. One of my sons will more than likely be renting it, as well as my wife and I, as a long-term investment, may land there as a retirement apartment, which would allow my 3 sons the ability to raise their children in the houses that we own along Witham Street without moving away. It'd be another generation of 3 families that could stay. I'd like to mention along with that is two of my sons do work in Gloucester, and they'd be able to maintain their positions in Gloucester. I don't believe that the continued use would have any adverse effects on the neighborhood. In fact, I believe that it would basically add another qualified unit to the inventory in the city.
Okay, thank you. Questions by the board at this time? So I have a couple of questions. In the application, yeah, you had a lengthy, and there is a mortgage inspection plan to show the lot, and I've been out to the site visit. But all we got for drawings, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the floor plans. I didn't see any elevation, so we know how tall. And I was wondering about over the garage unit, the methods of egress aren't shown. Are there decks going to be? a deck?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The height of the building is delineated on one of the floor plans as 23 feet under the 24 required. I was not asked to submit an elevation. I've submitted everything that was asked of me through the building department. There needs to be work done on the apartment to accommodate the second means of egress. That will be via a deck off the back, at which time all proper permits will be pulled to execute that deck as a second means of egress, at which time it can be fully inspected.
Okay, and your burden of proof here is the standard on the ADU for detached ADUs. When these were envisioned, and they're fairly new, they were written up, seemed specifically for one-family owner-occupied homes to add an accessory dwelling unit. In this scenario, as I can tell, you have a 2-family non-owner occupied home, and you're wishing to add an ADU. And so your criteria to convince us for the special permit is, will it meet the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance? So if you want to touch on that now, or you can after we take testimony, but that question will come up of how this might meet that standard for a special permit. You don't have to answer that now. Just be.
Well, I can expand on that now if you'd like. I did, when I submitted my application, I included some similar cases which were in existence prior to the accessory dwelling unit language. So I was hoping the board would look upon those and make a comparison with those. They're not specifically directed towards the ADU. In terms of it not being owner occupied, again, I can just state that the anticipation in the future is that it will be owner occupied by either one of my sons or my wife and I in the long-term future. That is our goal of property.
Okay, any other questions by board members? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Take public testimony. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? I'll remind you, if you're on a phone device, it's *9. If you're on Zoom, it's press the raise hand button. Anyone in favor? Seeing none, I'll ask anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application on Witham Street. Anyone in opposition? Again, seeing none, are the raise hand buttons working?
If I could interject just 1 minute and state that
No.
along with,
Hello,
I'm sorry,
this is not the
Yeah.
time for that.
I'm sorry.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, there'd be no need for rebuttal. Discussion by the board or questions of the applicant?
Yeah, tough one. I'm concerned about setting a precedent. I'm just wondering, is there any way we can condition this? I want to take Bill at face value of what he's saying to us about family and so on, that he owns the property next door. So I think the spirit of the ADU is being met. But my concern is that where I'm concerned, for me, sort of ethically, about setting precedent outside of single family homes. I just don't. So anyway, that's my concern.
Yeah, that's my concern too, actually. I mean, the ADU, which, as we've all pointed out, is relatively new zoning change. I mean, it is general requirements. The owners of the single family dwelling in which the accessory dwelling unit is created must continue to occupy one of the units as their residence. I mean, the idea is to give, I mean, the purpose and intent of the ADU is to give people who are living on their property an opportunity to create a new residential dwelling. And this is a 2-family with the garage. The applicant owns another 2-family right next to it, and then his residence. So it's, I just, and I can tell you, they've done an amazing job with this piece of property because it looked horrible before they bought it, and they've done a nice job of cleaning it up and whatnot. But I just don't think this is the intent and purpose of the ADU.
I did spend a lot of time rereading the ADU ordinance, like you say, because it is new to us. And the purpose and intent, one of the ones, section E, is to provide homeowners with a means of obtaining rental income to defray housing costs. So the idea is you live in the house, you can't afford it, you want a little rental unit that would help you to either do it, or for older people to stay in their home and be able to pay the taxes and everything. So, and my question is also, so this is a brand new ordinance, and we're discussing the applicant saying they've had it 5 years. Well, what was the plan going to be a year ago for this garage if there was no ADU adopted? And it seems unusual that it would come in under this part of the ordinance. I mean, whether you subdivide or go for a different type of special permit, I'm not sure, but just some thoughts. And anybody else want to speak on this one?
It just seems like, from the new ADU, it's supposed to say single family to allow it to build another dwelling. And this is what, a 2-family trying to build another dwelling? Is that correct, Joe?
Yes.
So
So it's like an investment property trying to just get more on the land,
Right. And I mean, I don't entirely have an issue with what they want to do. I think the approach might not be the correct approach, maybe filing different permits and whatnot. But I thought the intent for the ADU was single family, homeowner occupied, going through some struggles, good way to retain family within their home and build another source of income. And that's kind of the idea. Whether I believe or not, they decide to move into it down the road, is not relevant. It's what's going on now, I believe, that, we have concerns about, so.
And I'll just reread for everybody the standard. So we're talking about the zoning board of appeals may grant a special permit for an ADU that does not meet the above requirements, provided the board finds that the proposed ADU meets the purposes of this section 5.24 and will not have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood. It does go on to state that they should not ever be eligible for variances for zoning relief to allow more than one on a lot. So the intent, I guess, was not to have a cluster of these things going beyond two family. It doesn't actually say it 100%, but just so everybody's aware of the standard we're trying to meet here if we're going to approve this thing.
Yep.
Any other discussion or questions for the applicant? No one? Mr. Norman,
Yes.
do you have anything to add or?
Well,
anything you'd
yeah,
like
I
to
mean,
do? I'm not
so-
sure there's confidence in your application.
yeah, I can see that. The reason, it's that the application is coming in front of you in a 5-year period is that we've been working on the property for that long. My wife and I have been working on the property for that long. And I originally had thought that we'd be going for 2 primaries on 1 lot. I didn't even know that the ADU language existed. So I'm just going by I'm taking the path that was presented to me through the building department. I'm not complaining about that path, but if it's not the appropriate path, I mean, I get it. And I do want to clarify, a comment that especially Mr. Canavo, is that we're not building another unit. We're trying to just continue the use of a unit that's existed again for approximately 40 years. It does exist. It's there. We've only made the property better. The only person that it affects directly as an abutter would be Lee and Laurie Thorstenson, who are direct abutters to, if you visited the site, they're direct abutters to the garage. And they did provide a letter of support with the application. And, hopefully that,
That
all I
is
can say.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, so again, I think I think where I would chime in is I think it's not, I'm just concerned about precedent. I wish that I could, but I can't vote in favor because I feel like this is such a brand new inclusion in the zoning ordinance. And I feel like we're really stepping on it pretty hard when it talks about a single family and only one unit on, one more unit on the lot, and sort of the intent of it, for an owner occupied and so on. I feel like we're just, we would be treading over pretty hard all of that language. And I don't really feel like I have the right to do that as a zoning board member. So my hope is that Bill can potentially find a different way, a different avenue.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think an application for 2 dwellings on 1 lot has not flown with the board for the last decade. We've kind of gone away from those. The ADU is a wonderful new ordinance that does provide some good opportunities, but I don't think this is it. I mean, I'm not telling them which way to go, but it would almost seem like attaching it and going for a 2 to 3 with exterior changes would be the proper application. So we can turn this, Adria, go ahead.
Well, I don't have much to add other than I agree with Joe, and well, I guess I agree with everyone. I don't think this really meets the standard and is really following the spirit of the ADU. I feel bad because I know that this has been in existence for, 40 plus years, and I understand they just want to try to make it legal, but, and I'm again, not really sure what avenue they should be taking, but I don't think, I do worry about setting precedent, and I know we're not a precedent setting board, but given the newness of this ordinance, it just worries me to kind of, I don't know, butcher it a little bit, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I don't think I would be able to vote for approval of an ADU based on this.
Thank you. So I would, we could vote this down. It won't, I mean, it wouldn't be able to be applied for the same thing again, but certainly a different approach would be allowed as substantially different application. So I think in the interest of the ordinance, we should probably, we'll need a positive motion, and then if people don't want to vote for it, they can vote no.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I just want to correct, and I'm not sure I understood correctly. If you vote this down, there would need to be a substantial change in the project
all right.
to go forward with another issue. I'm not sure. Just want to make sure Mr. Norman is aware of that. Maybe he may wish to withdraw without prejudice.
We could offer that.
I would probably recommend that for his sake.
Mr. Norman?
I think that's, yeah, I mean, I guess that's my only option. That'd be fine. Thank you.
We'll need a motion to allow withdrawal without prejudice.
I'll make a motion to allow William and Pamela Norman to withdraw their application without prejudice.
Second,
Motion made and seconded to allow withdrawal without prejudice on the application. Roll call vote.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Slichty,
yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
and Mr. Parisi.
Yes. So that'll be reflected in the minutes. Okay, moving on. To the
Take care, Bill.
petition of Joseph Callahan seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand a non-conforming structure, to allow modifications to existing garage and add dormer to modify height at 49 Wingashiek Road. Attorney Sheedy is representing.
Graham, good evening.
Here we go.
Wilhelmina Sheedy appearing on behalf of Joe and Meredith Callahan concerning their property located at 49 Wingashiek Road. If I could bring up the plans, Mr. Chairman?
Go to it.
Nina, could you give us your address?
Oh, sure. 76 Main Street, Rockport.
Thank you.
I'll just bring to the site plan here. The applicants are seeking a special permit to modify an existing non-conforming garage. The property is located in the R20 residential district. And these floor plans and site plans, elevation plans were drawn by Treehouse Design and are dated December 13, 2021. The property consists of a 32,670 square foot lot with a single family structure and a garage. The garage is presently non-conforming as at 19 feet, it is taller than the 12 feet provided under the ordinance, and it is closer to the street than the primary dwelling. In all other respects, the garage is conforming and the dwelling house is also conforming as shown on these plans. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing home and replace it with a conforming structure. All of the homes on Wingashiek Road are atop a migrating dune and subject to EPA regulations. This means that the new construction home must be elevated on piers so that the dune can continue migrating naturally under the home. Due to the pier foundation, there is no opportunity for basement storage. The garage attic would provide the needed storage space for the home. The existing garage attic is built with wood trusses that compromise that storage. The applicant proposes to maintain the existing foundation and the walls of the garage and to rebuild the roof, adding small dormers with conventional wood rafters that would allow a small amount of usable space in the attic for storage. The head height at the front and the back dormers would only be 5'6", which is enough volume for storage, but not for habitation. The proposed height of the garage would be 20 feet 6 inches, which is only 1.5 feet taller or higher than the existing garage. There would be no plumbing in the garage and it cannot be heated. The Board of Health requires the space above the garage to be unheated in order to maintain the proper bedroom count for the septic system, and the Board of Health has approved these plans. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a special permit for the change, extension, alteration, or reconstruction of the existing non-conforming accessory structure, and feels that the proposed alteration to the garage will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure, and that the small alteration of 1.5 foot addition to the height would be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the ordinance and would not adversely affect the neighborhood, the zoning district, or the city to such an extent as to outweigh its beneficial effects.
Thank you. Can you roll it down so the public can see the other drawings, what it's going to look like?
Sure. So we have the first drawing here with the existing garage and the proposed garage. This small shed would be eliminated. This is the site plan, which shows the existing structure and the proposed structure all within the setbacks. And here's the existing garage, which would not move. The next set is the floor plans, the garage space, the existing second floor space. Elevations here which show the proposed increase in red of the garage. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions by the board at this time?
No, I think it looks like a great project to me.
Okay, we'll go to the public, open the public hearing to public testimony. If you could take down the drawings, Mina, please.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Yeah, I can't see yet till you take it down.
Hang on. Just try to figure out how to do that.
I think to unshare your screen. At the bottom.
Oh, at the very bottom, sorry. I don't see that. Oh, there we go. Sure. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand. Hit your raise hand button on your Zoom or dial *9 on a cell phone. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in opposition? 49 Wingy Sheep Road. You never know how long to wait. I see none, so we'll close the public hearing. There'll be no need for rebuttal. Discussion by the board or motion?
Yeah, I think the other reason to leave the garage where it is, I'm guessing, is if you move that garage, you're not going to be able to put it on the ground like it is now. So I think it's advantageous to the applicant to keep the garage right where it is for that reason as well. I can make the motion. I think it's a good
Okay.
project.
Go ahead, Mike.
Petition of Joseph Callahan seeking special permit 1.9 to alter, expand a non-conforming structure to allow modifications to the existing garage, add dormer, and modify height. It is increasing the non-conformity. It is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, so I would move approval of the special permit.
Second,
Motion made and seconded on the special permit. We have a roll call vote.
Ms. Flichty,
yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes, I think it's a good project.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. You've heard our decision is favorable. We'd appreciate if you could do a draft, and I'd ask Mr. Sanborn if he would stamp and sign those plans on my behalf. It must be a great project. It's a good looking project, but to be on Wingashiek and nobody speaking against it, it's got to be a great project.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Is James still with us?
You want to take
Yeah.
this one? I'll step back, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. James, you'll be voting on this application. This is the petition of Karen N. Bell, trustee for the Peter Bell Family Trust, seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter and expand the non-conforming structure to allow the modification of plans approved to demolish and reconstruction of the attached garage with ADU at 27 Briar Road, represented by Attorney Ellison.
Good evening. For the
Evening.
record, Deborah Ellison, Ellison Law Office, Middle Street, Gloucester. I represent the applicant Karen Bell, trustee of the Peter Bell Family Trust. And she is here tonight on the call. The designer is Charles Nazarian, and he is also on the call tonight. The property is located at 27 Briar Road. And if I may share my screen, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. As you may recall, we were here, well, what we're seeking is a modification under zoning ordinance 1.5.13. And for a special permit that was granted on October 28th, 2021, to replace this garage with a larger structure on the same footprint. To obtain a modification, the approved plan may be modified for good cause and provided it does not impair the interests of the city or the neighborhood. This is the old approved site plan, and it shows the original garage that was approved by you on the footprint from the garage that is currently there. What we are seeking to do is add 4 feet to the back of the garage. And it'll be, again, largely on the same footprint, but an additional 4 feet. And when Ms. Bell, the reason we're here is that Ms. Bell had the project priced for construction and found out that it was going to be a lot more expensive than she had anticipated. So after consulting with her builder and her architect, it was determined that making it slightly larger would not cost that much more, but it would make a much more usable and comfortable space for her. So she decided to come back and ask for the additional 4 feet. The 4 feet adds 204 square feet to the building overall. And if we look here in blue, you will see, well, on the bottom, you see the approved plans, and on the top, you see the plans that we are proposing. So in blue, you see the garage, and you see there's an additional space that's added to the back of the garage. There's additional storage space that's created by that. The ADU unit adds 102 square feet, but continues to keep it under the required square footage. And this is where you see the real significant difference. Right now, the proposed plan allows for a combined seating area and dining area and a kitchenette. Whereas with the increased space, a small increased space, she gets a full kitchen a full dining room with four seats, as well as a living area. So even though the ADU remains very small, it becomes much more usable and comfortable. And the cost to construct it is not that much different. There are slight variations in the elevation. You can see in the blue box, this is the elevation from the roof line from the proposed approved drawings, and the proposed, it's a little bit of a flatter roof. The height increases slightly by 10 inches, but it still remains compliant under the 30 feet. It's now approved at 26 feet, 10 inches, and it will now be 27 feet, 8 inches. But the facade, as you can see, remains the same. And again, we see again that the roof flattens a tiny bit. Under 1.5.13, as I said, we must show that it is being modified for good cause and that it doesn't impair the interests of the city or the neighborhood. The rise in construction costs makes it necessary and desirable for Ms. Bell to modify the plan, makes it more reasonable for her to incur the added construction costs because she'll end up with a much more usable unit and garage space. And it does not impair the interests of the neighborhood because it's off the back of the building. It won't be visible to any of her residential neighbors. There's no additional zoning relief required, and the facade doesn't change, and the building will remain in keeping with the neighborhood. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Any questions by the board at this time? Hearing none. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand. Anyone in favor? Seeing none. Anyone in opposition to the application to modify? Anyone in opposition? Please raise your hand. On the phone, *9, or on your Zoom, press the raise hand button. Again, seeing none, no need for rebuttal. I'll entertain a motion by the board or any discussion that might need to take place. I see my own thoughts. I mean, it's just a minor increase. There was no opposition last time or this time. It's a big wide open area behind there, so I don't see it creating any harm to the city or anyone. And it certainly would be something I'd support.
I can make the motion if you want.
Yes, please.
Petition of Karen N. Bell, trustee, Peter Bell Family Trust, seeking special permit 1.9, alter, expand a non-conforming structure, allow the modification of plans approved by demolition and reconstruction of the attached garage, the ADU at 27 Briar Road. I think for the reasons stated by Attorney Eliason, I think the ordinance is satisfied for the need to do it, and it's not detrimental to the city. So I would move passage of the motion for the special permit.
Motion made. Need a second?
Second that.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
I also vote yes. You've heard our decision is favorable. We'd appreciate a draft. If we could provide that to help move this on.
Absolutely. Thank
And
you very much.
Mr. Sanborn, if you could sign and stamp those revised plans on my behalf. Okay, thank you. Our next hearing is the petition of Peter J. Carboni, seeking a special permit under 1.9 to alter or expand a non-conforming structure, and a special permit under 2.4.5, the demolition and replacement of a pre-existing non-conforming single or two-family residence to allow demolition and replacement of a single-family residence at 2 High Rock Terrace. Attorney Favaz.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Joel Favaza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions here on behalf of the applicants. As this board knows, there was a lengthy letter in opposition from one of the neighbors that was filed. And my client's going to need some time to work through some of the issues raised and see if we can get those concerns addressed. So I'd like to request a continuance for a month so we can work on some of the issues raised and come back and hopefully present to you either a modified plan that resolves the concerns or at least addresses some of them. So again, I request a continuance for a month.
Thank you. We could have a motion to allow a continuance to February 24th. Does that work for you, Joel? Someone make that motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move continue to the 2 High Rock Terrace application to February 24th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to allow a continuance on the application of Peter J. Carboni. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
You're muted, Peter.
Yes.
Ms. Slickty,
Yes.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Thank you, Joel. We'll continue that to February 24th. Our final hearing of the evening is
Hey,
the.
Joe.
Yes,
If James is available for this one, I own a house a couple streets over.
okay.
So if James is available, I'll just recuse myself on this one.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm also.
Oh, wait a minute,
recused.
Adria's already recused.
Yeah.
So I don't have to, it's not, I personally am fine, but
Yeah, you're on the
you
other
need to
end
go
of the, you're a couple blocks
Yeah,
away. You're good.
I'm on Beacon Street. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sort of 2 streets over, so that's fine. I
I
can
think
hear.
you'll be fine. Adria is recused on this one.
Sorry, Michael. Thank you.
No, that's all right. No problem.
This is the petition of Anna Giulino seeking a special permit under 2.3.1 subsection 6, 2 to 3, change of use and special permit 4.1.2 to allow a lesser number of off-street parking, to allow conversion of a 2-family to a 3-family at 21 Wells Street. Attorney Favaza?
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. We can move this along. Okay, so again, for the record, my name is Joel Favaza. I'm an attorney at Seaside Legal Solutions, 123 Main Street here in Gloucester. I'm here on behalf of Anna Galino, who along with her husband Marco own 21 Wells Street. The proposed work we're discussing tonight is to bring an existing dwelling unit into code compliance and zoning compliance. There are no exterior changes proposed except for expanding 2 bedroom windows into full-size egress windows. By way of background, we are in the R5 district, that is the high-density residential district. Anna purchased the property back in 1999. It's been the primary residence for her family since then. This lot is a conforming R5 lot, and the structure is the conforming structure. As you can see on the very right-hand side of this photo, there's some wooden egress stairs, and they slightly penetrate into that side yard setback, but no more than the 3 feet allowance for exposed stairs of that type. This is a conforming structure, conforming lot. And so the relief requested is to convert the 2-family to a 3-family and for a reduction in parking spaces. And I want to be clear at the front, I'll address this in a bit. There are no compliant spaces according to the zoning ordinance, but there are more than enough actual spaces to park cars. And I'll get back into that in a moment. But first I want to discuss the backgrounds. This is Anna and Marco, along with Anna's parents. She actually purchased this home back in 1999 with her former husband, Pietro, and she was about 20 years old when they bought this. It was a 2-family home, and Pietro and Anna's father wanted to convert the walkout base into a third unit. And when they went to pull a building permit, they were told, hey, you can't build a kitchen because that would create a dwelling unit and you have to go to the zoning board to create a dwelling unit. And so they built one anyway. And, Anna wasn't involved, but we recognize that she's the owner now. This is her problem now. The house has been throughout this and remains a family house. Anna and her husband, Marco, live on the top floor. Anna's adult daughter and Anna's daughter's children, those are Anna's grandchildren, live on the second level. And this unpermitted unit is where Anna's brother had lived. And now Anna's hoping to move her mother into that unit. Anna's mother actually is currently living on the second floor along with Anna's child and grandchildren. And that's just the wrong environment for an elderly mother. Some of Anna's grandchildren are teenagers. It's just, not the right space for her. Since the creation of this unpermitted unit, Anna, as you may have inferred, divorced Pietro, and Anna's father has also passed away. And Anna's brother had become the maintenance man for the house. It's her brother Joe with her right there. And so Joe kept up with repairs. He upgraded his unit with some custom tile and built-in work that he did to the unit. A few years ago, a pipe burst in the kitchen and he repaired and replaced the kitchen when that happened. And then last year, at the end of 2020, actually, he unexpectedly passed away. It was within weeks of Anna's father passing away, and his unit has remained vacant since then. Actually, you'll see some pictures later on. It's still in the condition it was when he passed away. His stuff is still in there. Anna happened to receive a notice of violation. The city detected the third unit in there and sent her a notice of violation while dealing with these deaths. And these deaths, among other things, necessitated Anna having to move her mother from Italy back to Gloucester because now that her father had passed and her brother had passed, there was no one to go over to Italy and take care of her mom. So her mom had to come here and move in with the family again. But upon receiving the notice for violation, well, first Anna thought it was a mistake, right? Her position was, this has been here forever. My brother's been downstairs almost his whole life. And so she went to the annex, and that's when, it was pointed out to her that right there on the plans, it very clearly says, no kitchen, right? You're not allowed to build a kitchen as part of the remodel that they did, back about 20 plus years ago. She was also alerted that nowadays the egress window requirements are different than the windows that are in there. So she removed the oven from the kitchen to try and disqualify it as a kitchen to try and stop the violation. And she's left the unit vacant. She hired an architect, she hired my office, and we just recently negotiated a proposed settlement for the prior violation. The building department has conditionally approved a $5,000 fine, and we'd request that it be tied to the pulling of a building permit to complete this unit if she's able to get the relief from you tonight. So, to be clear, we recognize that Anna, who's the owner of the property now, has inherited this issue, but despite all the things she was going through when this violation was pointed out to her, she immediately, took the steps to decommission the kitchen, and nobody has been living downstairs since then. And so the unit itself only needs the egress window upgrades and your zoning permission to become compliant. It has adequate ceiling height, as you can see. There's 2 means of independent egress. And again, this has been left how Joe left it. So this is not because someone is living there. This is because it's, frankly, difficult for Anna to go downstairs and start addressing this because, of her brother's kind of unexpected and tragic passing. So, nice bathroom, 2 nice bedrooms, laundry on site. This is not some, hideaway apartment that people don't want, eyes on. This is going to pass code inspection if she can get those windows corrected and the relief from the zoning board tonight for the third unit. Per usual, I have all of the plans here in full. This shows the unit that. So this is the unit where her daughter lives in the middle of the building. This is Anna's unit, and this is the proposed unit. As you can see, there's very little red here because it's really just restoring the kitchen and then altering those 2 bedroom windows. Otherwise, the unit is there and ready to go if allowed to be restarted. Same thing here. This is all you'll see changing from the outside are these egress windows and these little window wells, because that portion of the basement is below grade. So you have to make sure you dig out and provide room for someone using the egress windows in an emergency to be able to get up and out from the apartment. And that's just a diagram of the construction for the window wells. I want to start talking about the parking. So again, the application states that there's zero spaces, because technically there are zero compliant spaces. And this is true in part because when you get beyond a 2-family, you wind up in these parking lot standards for a 3-family and bigger. You're not allowed to have any parking in the front yard setback area. You have to have a 20 to 24 foot wide parking aisle behind your parking space, which is typically 18 feet or 18 feet deep, excuse me. But in like practical reality, there's room for 3 to 5 cars on the site, depending how you want to handle it. If you keep the cars completely off the street, this is a dead end street up on Wells Street, you can get 3 cars off the road completely. If you allow cars to kind of hang out as shown in this picture, you can get 5 cars. So you got 1, 2, and a 3rd car here. And then down on Arcadia Street, there's a 4th space and a 5th space. If you change the top spaces to keeping it completely off the road, you can get 1 parallel space completely off the road, and then go back down to Arcadia and get your 2nd and your 3rd space. There was a letter that was submitted by the owner of 18 Wells Street. It's in the file. And there were some concerns in that letter about a car parking near a fire hydrant. That does not belong to my clients or anyone in that house. There are concerns about other cars already in the street. Those do not belong to my clients or anyone living at my client's house. That van is Marco's work van. And while there is plenty of room when snow isn't present for the owner of 18 Wells or anyone else to get in and out emergency vehicle access, based on the concern articulated in that letter, we'd be willing to offer and accept if the board found it sufficient, a condition that just said, as part of granting this relief, when there's snow present on Wells Street, 21 Wells must park no more than 1 vehicle parallel in that space and use the Arcadia spaces otherwise. The Arcadia spaces typically are empty because it's just more convenient to come off of Wells Street where the doors to the house are. Arcadia requires another staircase, right? You walk up a stone staircase to the yard and then you go into the house. So for convenience, they typically park on Wells, but there's plenty of room down in Arcadia to get out of the way if there's a concern about, constrained access when it's snowing out. But we would ask that otherwise, the way they've been parking for the last 20 years would be allowed, when there's not snow and there's ample room. Again, this is a dead end street, so they're at the end on the right. So as for the standards to be applied, we have your use permit standards, the 6-part test. So this adds a needed unit of housing that's encouraged by the already recent amendments to the GZO. It's encouraged by the housing production plan. Again, we are less than halfway to what was supposed to be done by 2022. And as you may know, there are several pending amendments to the zoning ordinance that if they pass, it'll make converting to a 3-family by right in the R5 district. If this were under a different circumstance, I could have advised, my clients to just wait and see if the ordinance passes, but because they're under a violation notice, they really have to come in and get this 3rd unit, permitted. So that's why we're here now and not just waiting for it to become a by right issue. Traffic flow and safety, again, we don't have technically compliant spaces, but we have real world compliant spaces. We're supposed to have 3 spaces. We can get 3 to 5 cars off the street, 3 cars off the street completely, 5 cars again with, back ends hanging out into the dead. Adequacy of utilities, there are no upgrades required. This was for 20 years, for better or for worse. Neighborhood character and social structure, again, this is exactly what the R5 district is designed for. As I mentioned, they're trying to make it even easier to have these 3-family conversions happen. And I say no exterior changes. That's, there are those 2 windows changing, but nothing's getting bigger, nothing's being reoriented. And those 2 windows are so low that they're kind of in ground. No one's going to really notice that side of the house has changed. Similarly, no change to the natural environment. But per usual, when you add a dwelling unit, you get increased tax revenue to the city. Should in the future, my clients rent out that bottom unit or move into the unit themselves and rent out the one they're in now, It creates, a little A affordable housing for people in Gloucester who, can't afford live in a lot of what's available. And then for the reduction in parking spaces, you can issue a special permit for a lesser number, but it has to serve the intent of the parking ordinance. And so the ordinance in section 412A requires at least one off-street parking space for each dwelling unit in the R5. And so again, as I showed you, you can fit 3 spaces, which is the required amount, or 3 cars rather, totally off-street. And practically, you can fit about 5 cars, again, if you use a portion of the dead-end street. And again, we're willing to take the condition that when there is snow present, vehicles be parked fully off-street to make sure that if the road narrows due to weather, no part of their vehicles are hanging out into the traveled way. So again, that's relief requested, those 2 special permits. And the proposed conditions I would suggest would be that the existing driveways must be maintained. So that way, if you say, okay, 0 compliant spaces, they can't suddenly just get rid of their parking, right? You have to keep the driveways you have. No parking of vehicles fully or partially in Wells Street when snow is present, and that a $5,000 fine be paid at the time the building permit application is filed to take care of the violation that the unit was there unpermitted for all that time. So I thank you. We have Anna and her husband Marco. There's my contact information in case you need it. I will kill off the screen share now. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I can sit back and open it up.
Any questions by the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, please raise your hand. Anyone in favor of Wells Street application? *9 on your phone to raise your hand, or your raise hand button on Zoom. Seeing none. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Ms. Pratt, Danielle Pratt, who did submit some, that is in the record, a letter and pictures. We can bring in Ms. Danielle Pratt.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Parisi. How are you today?
Good.
I am in opposition to this.
We need you to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Danielle Pratt, and I am the owner of 18 Wells Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So my house sits directly across from Anna's. So I'm in the last dead end across the street from her. So in order to get in and out of my driveway, because of the way their vans park, their feet, numerous feet in the street, it narrows it down that end. A lot of the houses, my house is a multifamily, their house is a multifamily, the house next to me is a multifamily. It's very condensed with parking. We don't even have the room to park 3 in our driveway, but we do to keep them off the street. Because of that, the next door neighbors don't have enough room for the parking they have. They're constantly up against the fire hydrant. And with that, in conjunction with the congestion down there and the vans parked as far in the street as they are, every single morning, it's hard for me to get out of my driveway. I worry about if an emergency ever happens, are they going to be able to access my driveway? There would never be, no ambulance would ever be able to turn into my driveway the way it is right now. I'm not opposed to what they want to do to their house. I'm opposed to the fact that there is no parking in the area for anybody else. When there's snow, I get plowed in completely and I cannot even get in and out. And without the snow, it's very hard. I have to do at least a 4-point turn and hope I don't hit anybody's car.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition, please raise your hand. Seeing none, rebuttal.
Thank you. And as I kind of stated, I'll just bring up this one slide just to make sure everything's, again, these pictures were provided by Miss Pratt. So again, Miss Pratt's household, I'm going to annotate this. So her driveway, I believe, goes like this, past the fire hydrant. And again, this would be the back of Marco's van. I personally, and I'm sorry to hear that she's having difficulty with the neighbor. I can see that the distance between that pole and this van is prohibitively small for emergency vehicles, but nevertheless, what she's talking about is the way in which people are kind of choosing to park on Wells Street. If they're parking illegally or parking, unsafely, that's an issue that isn't necessarily before the zoning board. The real issue is, can this applicant park 3 cars off the street in driveways? And the answer is yes. She has 1 space up off Wells. We totally off the street, and she has 2 spaces down on Arcadia, and has offered to take a restriction that no one else in the neighborhood has. Everyone else in the neighborhood, as shown by Ms. Pratt's pictures, parks all over Wells Street. My client's willing to take a condition that no one else, including Ms. Pratt, has, which is that they will not park even partially on Wells Street when snow is present. So that would make them have, less access than the other multis, that are currently parking all over the street. And so I think that, in fairness to what we're trying to do here, given this is the R5 and this is the downtown R5, we're like, right next to Dunkin' Donuts, right? We are really getting deep in there, that we're providing the right number of spaces, even though they aren't compliant to the parking lot requirements that a 3-family calls for in the zoning ordinance, makes us a better 3-family than most in this area. And, I defer to the board if they think this condition is sufficient, or if they'd like to tweak it at all. But again, can you get 3 cars off the street completely? Absolutely. Can you get a few more if you hang out at the dead end a little bit? Sure can. Is that, more than is required on a practical level by the ordinance? Yes. Do they technically comply? No. But does the lesser number serve the intent? Yes. And that's the standard, right? And so again, I'm willing to work with the neighbor, willing to work with the board if there's, tweaks to the condition we propose, but otherwise, I would hope that you'd see that these 3 spaces they provide meet the purpose and intent of the parking requirement that a 3-family have at least 3 parking spaces.
Well, so my only thing is, you keep talking about the concession or the condition they're willing to make. All that is to obey the law. Okay, if there's a snow emergency, they're not supposed to be on the street. So they're not doing anything more than the law requires them to do.
Mr. Chair, I'm referring to throughout, like if there's, not snow emergency, there's snow banks present until the spring comes and the snow's all melted away. They'd be parking parallel the entire winter.
That's I was wondering when you worded it that way, if that was what your intent was, that would be a better solution. Because the snow banks, we can't just be a snow emergency. The snow banks really do make it kind of tight down there. I mean, that house was always just a garage forever that served the house on the other end of the street. So,
So Joel, they don't use the Acadia Street area to park?
Typically, no. Again, right now they have 2 cars total in that house. When Joe was still alive, there was a 3rd car. But the Arcadia, because Arcadia is so much lower, it's just another set of stairs. So when you're running into the house, again, Anna lives on the top floor. She's already going up a full 1.5 flights from the driveway, and down Arcadia makes it 2.5. So just for convenience, they park up top, but they could park down there. Again, when snow is present and parking up on Wells becomes problematic. Again, we can't control what the rest of Wells Street is going to do out there, but we can control what we're going to do. And they can use those Arcadia spaces. There's only, like I said, 2 cars for the whole house right now.
Drove down that street all the way. I mean, obviously there's no snow banks right now. I didn't have a hard time turning around. And that's what I was looking for. I'm like, well, this seems pretty loose, not too bad. But maybe it was part of the day I was there or not, but it was after work hours, so I was worried about congestion, but it didn't seem too crowded, at least from what I see.
and it is, I mean, it is something that was going on there all this time. And I think
Right.
with the concession on wintertime, especially that van, that's the real That seems like the only problematic thing. If that can be parked,
On
Sideways.
Acadia.
I think that would be a pretty good compromise to keep a unit of housing. I mean, like you say, they all are multifamily all up and down the street, so. Okay, any other discussion? Question?
Can I just clarify what the parking condition would be, that they only park one car parallel parking from what? From December to April, or are we saying when the snow flies? What?
I was asking when snow is present on Wells Street. So if, you know, it's a dry winter and the first snowstorm doesn't hit until late January, they would keep parking until then. Or if it's an early spring and the snow melts away. But as long as snow is present on Wells Street, they would have to be, you know, in fully.
Once they plow and bankings are present, or something like that, in the word. Anybody, Michael?
Which I think,
Go ahead, Peter.
no, I was gonna say, for Miss Pratt, the neighbor, if she's having hard times pulling out during the snow, like snow emergency or heavy snow, maybe just to help her out, whether this passes or not, reach out to the DPW and saying, hey, this is problematic for me to pull out because they're just crushing the snow right almost into my driveway and I have no room to get out. Maybe there's, you know, some accommodation there or some consideration when they're plowing the streets. I know I've had those situations and neighbors came out, so I would try to accommodate it the best I could. But again, I feel bad for anybody who's getting, you know, blocked in because snowbanks are pressing up on their driveway. I would recommend, or at least try to reach out maybe to DPW if that could help at any cost, whether this goes forward or not. But that's it.
Yeah, I think my comment was just, I think the concession's reasonable. It's a good unit. I think we need to find a way to keep the unit in force. It's a good unit.
Yep. Agreed.
Right, but parking is always a concern, right? So I agree with Peter. It seemed like you could maneuver down there when you went down. I could see snow being a problem though. So, and you do have the option of Acadia Street. So maybe not, only that. I mean, I hate to say you can't park a van there, but maybe that van should be down in Acadia Street and just not up there on Wells Street. But I agree. It's a unit that's been in existence for a long time. There hasn't been a lot of, continuing problems about it. And there is,
I don't care what they do with the house.
as Joel says, not compliant, but there is a space to pull off the road so people can get by. And I'm more inclined to grant it than not. I just, and I think that not being there when there's snow in the air or snow present is the resolution. I mean, it seems the snow creates the problem because it narrows down the available parking.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
my one question would be is how would it be enforced?
yeah, I was thinking about that too. I mean, we can't set too many conditions that who the heck is gonna manage it. I mean, they definitely shouldn't be out in the road in any snow type scenario, but at least getting something on the record that when there's snow, they would park differently, at least would give the other people recourse to come back or file a complaint that they weren't complying with their special permit.
Or you could say one car up on Wells and two down in Acadia.
It's a public road.
Huh?
Right, we can't regulate what people do off the property. We can only vote for the project and the parking provided. There's 3 spaces provided, 3 required in the R5 for the 3 family. So I don't think we have the fact that they're willing to make that concession, I think is a win. we don't really have a way to dictate who does what where on public property.
They,
But-
but Acadia, isn't the parking on Acadia is on their land, right?
Right. Yep.
Right.
That's two of the spaces.
The parking on Wells is on their land. If they park perpendicular to the, I mean, if they park parallel to the house, that's on their land too.
Yep.
And you can say those are your three spaces, two in Acadia and one parallel to Wells.
Right, I
And
think
maybe the top
legally,
top floor person gets Wells Street and the two other have to hike it up from Acadia.
Hmm.
I'm
But
just saying,
again-
you only get one parking space on Wells and you have to park parallel to the house.
again, that can be what we're saying, but other people could park on Wells Street in front of that. It's nothing we could do about it. We can't, the police aren't coming and moving the cars on Wells Street because of a
Oh,
zoning.
you mean on the other side of the road or up, you mean?
Well, even in front of their own landing, right? I mean, a car could park in front of that parking space and it could be their car. And the police aren't doing anything about it, you know? We can only regulate what's on the lot. I mean,
I agree.
yeah, I don't know, we can't really say who parks where, what kind of truck parks in what space, you know?
I agree. Let's.
For that concession for the snow, I mean, that
Right,
seems
that's
like
a-
a pretty
that's a hell-
reasonable.
That's above and
Yeah.
beyond, I think, what would legally be before us.
May I speak again?
Not normally, but you can have a minute to say something.
All
sure.
right. The only thing, like I said, I'm concerned about is exactly what she's talking about, is that van is parallel and behind the van is her van. So getting out between them and then pulling forward, having another car there, then, or backing up the entire street backwards until I get on the main street to kind of get off. It's just not conducive. If they could just park straight across rather than parallel, that would be really helpful.
Well, I think they're trying to make that effort.
Okay.
It may not be all the time, but at least in the worst conditions. So I think we're limited on what we can regulate, but thank you for chiming in. So the public hearing is closed. And we'll entertain either a motion or any more discussion. Catherine, you make a motion and condition it as you will.
I mean, I agree with Bill. How do you, I guess the neighbors could call and say that, I mean, the enforcement about the snow is a little concerning to me. I honestly, I really, if the applicant wouldn't mind, I would like to continue it and go down there and look at that parking again.
You're more than welcome to.
It's a chairman's decision, but thank you. Because it's not clear in my mind now. I mean, I'm just like, I wasn't really properly paying attention to the parking spot.
Are you asking for a
I'm
continuation?
asking to continue it.
So I would entertain, it would be a quick hearing, so I would entertain a motion to continue to February, is it the 10th? First thing on the agenda. And we will not have a site visit, but I would encourage all the members to go back and take a second look. Take in mind the parking. And then we'll only have discussion by the board and a motion at that point when we come back on the 10th. If you want to make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we continue the application for 21 Wells Street to February 10th.
Second.
Made and seconded to continue to February 10th to allow the members to take a second look at the parking situation. Roll call vote.
Ms. Slichty,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Mr. Gelati,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes. Okay, so we continue to February 10th,
You bet.
2022, and we'll come back then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Okay, that's our last hearing. Is there any discussion by the board on any subject or questions that want to come up? Our next meeting's February 10th. The packets are available at the office in the stairwell. It's right, so now we're at 7, I believe. Some continuances from our previous meeting and some new hearings, so do your homework. If anybody has anything they want to add, or we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made to adjourn and seconded. Roll call vote.
Ms. Pratt,
Yes.
Mr. Nyman,
Yes.
Mr. Canavo,
Yes.
Ms. Slickty,
Yes.
Mr. Parisi.
Yes, we are officially adjourned. Good to see you all. Stay out of the snow Saturday and
Yeah, we're gonna get a lot.
yeah.
I'll be right in there. I'll be right in there.
Me too.
Don't,
Oh, playing it.
Have
You
fun.
guys sound like you're working.
Yes, too many.
have a
All
good
right.
night, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks a lot. Good night, everybody. Good meeting.
Good night.
Right.
Night.
You there?
What happened? What happened to Greg?
What happened to who?
Greg, I thought he was coming tonight.
No, he
Yeah.
wasn't planning on being here.
No, I thought he said
Right.
yes when I asked him.
Oh, I saw, we still recorded here. I
Yeah,
saw
we are.
one gentleman came on for about 10
You're
minutes.
still
and then-
recording.
Yeah, he came on for about 10 minutes and then went off.
Oh,
So,
interesting. All
Yeah.
right. I
All
will
right.
see you Monday.
yeah, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.